Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches making the big time where they're at. I am your host, Gage Rozier. Today's episode is sponsored by TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr provides strength conditioning software to athletics programs around the country. Whether you write your own programs or want access to over 100 templates, TeamBuildr can make your program more efficient, more accountable, and smarter when it comes to measuring your team's effort in the weight room. Visit their website and start a 14-day free trial at TeamBuildr.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey guys, before we get to today's show, I want to remind you of our TeamBuildr special offer. If you visit TeamBuildr.com and start a 14-day free trial and use the promo code BIGTIME in all capital letters, you will receive the following complimentary templates: an in-season and off-season football, general athlete development program, and a Gameday CNS Prep Session. There's a link in the show notes. You just hit that and automatically populate it for you. Thank you to TeamBuildr for sponsoring today's show and this special offer. This week we have on Coach Dakota Steiner. He's the head strength conditioning coach at Forever Strong Training Center in Adel, Iowa. Coach Steiner is in the private sector. He's the first one of our guests who is in the private sector, and I want to have him on just because he has a great ability to connect with athletes. He's one of the best at being able to establish those relationships. He takes interest in what his athletes are doing outside of the training center, and you could tell those kids are just immediately bought into what he does and the amount of knowledge he has, but also just how much he cares for them. Coach Steiner is one of my best friends. We had the pleasure of working together at Northwest Missouri State, really valued our time there, and I really appreciate him coming on. So hope you enjoyed the show. Here's Coach Dakota Steiner. Hey, Coach Steiner, really appreciate you coming on the Big Time Strength Podcast. Get us going here by explaining your background and where you're at right now.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. So I grew up on a farm in a small town, Maysville, Missouri, similar to Mountain City, kind of like your background. But whenever I went to college, I knew that I was interested in some form of training. And to begin with, I just thought, hey, I just want to be a PE teacher and maybe be a football coach. It's very broad. It was pretty much like an undecided major. Until I got done with all my gen eds. And then I got started into some personal training at the fitness center that was there on campus, and started training some college kids and stuff like that. And, it was fun and good, but I was kind of getting burnt out pretty quick. Then one of my buddies named Nick Peterson from California, he just told me randomly one day, hey, maybe you should try to intern in the varsity weight room with Joe Quinlin. You might, like that. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, it was kind of intimidating at first, but I went and talked to Joe, and, he was all for it. He was a big help, and he let me right in and kind of threw me into the fire off the bat, because I kind of thought, I'll just go in, kind of watch, learn from him, set up, tear down, all that good stuff. But he throws you right in the warm-ups and leading groups that way. So you definitely get your feet wet pretty quick if he trusts you with stuff. And that helped me out a lot. After a couple years of interning there, Maysville High School actually hit me up. The football coach, Mark Cole, did. And he wanted a little bit of help with his high school athletes. So I would send him some programs based on what the setup was there. And then one summer I went back and I would help him implement them with his athletes. And then he offered me an assistant football coach job and an assistant strength coach job too. I did that for a year, and it was just kind of a lot to balance between that and going back up to Northwest with class and the weight room and all that kind of stuff. But I'm glad I did it. It was good to learn some of that time management stuff. After that, I was fortunate enough to have Joe offer me a graduate assistant spot, and I took that without question. Because once I started really investing in some of the athletes that were there, you and Preston and Joe and a lot of other coaches know that strength and conditioning as a coach is just such a great platform to kind of invest in a lot of young athletes. How I got to Forever Strong Training Center, Jeff Grove, he built the facility a few years ago, because he used to just train his sons, Jared and Jordan, out of a shed in the backyard. And, a few of their high school buddies wanted to come in and train with him, and it kind of just grew to about 10 kids or so. And then he decided, I'm retired, so I might as well just build this facility and kind of see where it goes. And once he built it, it really blew up. And he got to know me through Jordan, his youngest son, because Jordan played football at Northwest for 5 years. And through talks with Jordan and then Joe, he thought that I would be a perfect fit for the facility that he has up there. So we talked for a few months up until my graduation. And then after I graduated, he offered me the job as the head coach there. And I accepted that, and everything kind of worked out, and that's where I'm at now.
Well, it's a great facility. I was able to go up there and be with you there, or watch you there for a morning or so. And why don't you explain a little bit about who you're working with, and kind of what a normal day looks like at the Forever Strong Training Center.
So it's a 6,400 square foot facility. It's got 7 racks, dumbbells from 5 to 100. It's got about every piece of equipment that you would need to train any athlete. On an average day, in the summertime, it's kind of the off season for the kids. The summer and the winter time, it's anywhere from 6 in the morning until about 3 in the afternoon. Since the kids don't have school or anything like that, they can come in the morning and mid-afternoon and get their work in. When the school actually starts back up, there's groups in the morning before school, and then there's groups afternoon right after school. And we will have groups anywhere from 3:30 after school all the way until 6 p.m. at night, just so we can get all the kids in, based on when they have practice, if they don't have practice, that kind of stuff.
And what age group are you working with there?
There's anywhere from 5th and 6th graders all the way up to college kids. And obviously the college kids come in, when they're off in the summer and in the winter, but mainly 5th and 6th, junior high, and then high school kids.
That's a big time wide variety of training levels you have to work with there. And I kind of saw how you ran it. It's a really awesome facility to be able to work out of. And you kind of stepped into a kind of a established culture, and maybe talk a little bit about what that culture is and how you've added to it.
Yeah, so like you said, it's pretty diverse in age groups, but there's 2 big banners that the kids see every single time that they walk in and walk out of the facility. And we kind of have a saying, strong body and strong mind. And that's kind of what the culture is built around. You can come in and you can get stronger, faster, more explosive, but there's another side to it, where you have to have a strong mind too, because your body's only going to be pushed as far as your mind wants to take it. And just as well as I do, there's a lot more lessons to be learned in the weight room than just getting stronger and stuff like that. So that's kind of what the culture is built around is, hey, we're going to be pushed here physically, but we're also going to be pushed mentally too. That way, whenever we face different adversities, whether it be in the classroom or a sport or in life after school, we know how we need to attack those, mind-wise.
Yeah, I love that message. And just by watching you that short time period, those kids really embody that. There's no doubt about that, in my opinion. And, one question I love to ask on here, and I'm really fascinated with, is how we develop leaders. And you're in a different setting there. You're not in that collegiate school setting or high school setting. So what are maybe some ways that you develop leaders within your setting there?
Yeah, so I always tell the kids, these workouts are not going to be easy. And it's one thing just to go through the workout yourself and do your best and make it through. But, there's all these other kids that are in here with you. And, some may be struggling some days where you're thriving on a day and you need to pick them up. And, vice versa, where you're struggling one day and those other kids that you helped out maybe last week or yesterday, they're going to be there to kind of help you too. And it's kind of, that sense we're not exactly on the same team, but we're on the same team whenever we're in there. That way, we can pick each other up and help each other through the workouts and stuff like that. And, that holds true, later on in life too, where some days you need to pick somebody else up, and then another day you need to be picked up by someone else. And just having the kids know that and kind of seeing them do that with the other athletes that work out in there, it's I don't know, it's really fulfilling and awesome to see them do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to watch you work, and I saw, a girl who's going to pitch in the SEC softball player helping out a fifth grade girl with her hand clean, and that's powerful. There's no doubt that's a strong message for both situations there. How about let's talk about those differences between the collegiate or the school setting and the private setting. I mean, what are some things you've learned there?
I mean, some of the big differences is just the training age of some of the kids. Like the young kids that come in, like they have, and to sound bluntly, they don't really even know how to move their bodies quite yet. They don't know how to run properly. They don't know how to cut or jump or move like that. And then you go to the junior high kids where they're a little bit more developed. They know kind of what they're doing, but they can still fine tune things. Same with the high schoolers. You see that too. And then the collegiate athletes who've been in there a little bit longer, you can see that, they kind of know what they're doing a little bit. And since there's limited eyes in there, it's nice to have some of the older kids step up and, kind of teach the younger kids on some of the movements, because, I can only be in one spot at one time. And it's nice to have the older kids that know what they're doing kind of step up and say, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how to do it right, stuff like that. So the dynamic of it, of the different ages, is one of the biggest things I had to kind of adjust to, going into that kind of a setting.
With that, there's a lot of dynamics there. So are you using anything from a technology or software or app standpoint to kind of help you facilitate your training?
So the way that it's set up, each group that comes in is all based on their age. So there'll be we call it the young guns group. It's 5th and 6th graders. They'll come in and they're going to work on, their body movements, how to run, how to jump, how to cut, how to accelerate out of, a dead stop. And then we'll move on from there. The further they progress and the further they progress in age. One thing that's really helped us a lot, I mentioned Jared, Jeff's oldest son, before. He's a computer whiz. And he's really good at coding Excel. So there's actually a page that we have that's their moving max tab. So all the athletes' names are listed, in age order. And we'll put their maxes in this one page, and it'll transfer them to the workout page. Well, the computer is connected to a television, a big screen TV that hangs on the wall. I'll have the workout set across the TV screen so everyone can see the sets and the reps and the exercises that they're doing. And then I'll just have their percentages down below. So it's a list of their names in the group, and then the percentages just file down accordingly to what their maxes are. So all the kids have to do during the workout is look up the TV, and they're going to know exactly what weight they should have for their next set. And that's something that's been awesome. You don't have to go and print out a bunch of different sheets for the kids to carry around and have them forget them in the weight room. You have to pick them up afterwards. It's just nice for them to look up, know what they need to do, and just, put the weight on the bar and go that way. So I'd say that program that Jared helped us design with their moving maxes and everything was a huge help.
Yeah, that's huge. There's no doubt about that. And whether you're in the private sector or the school setting, there's going to be challenges, right? So let's talk a little bit about, what are some of the really hard challenges you've had since starting there at Forever Strong?
So other than just the dynamic of the different age groups, having to, really go into your coaching, like remembering coaching cues and teaching them the proper technique and breaking things down, to the most basic things so they can understand it. Other than that, it's really about being flexible with the schedule, because a lot of these kids rely on their parents for rides, and there has to be a really good communication between you and the parents of whenever the kids can come in. There's some days that, a kid can't come in because they've got an unexpected practice, or they've got a game that's come up, or they've got a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment or something like that. And you have to be able to be flexible to have them come in at a different time. And sometimes it's even on the weekends, like a Saturday or something like that. So just being super flexible with, when you can train certain kids is one of the biggest challenges, I'd say.
So let's switch gears here a little bit and let's talk a little more training. So I got a pretty good idea maybe what your training philosophy is, but let's let our listener know on kind of what your main rocks are with your how you train athletes.
One of my biggest things in training is for a lot of these kids, the more basic, the better. Like it's not rocket science. These kids need to learn how to move properly first before you ever put them underneath the barbell. And that's what a lot of it is in the beginning, is the kids will come in, their parents are really intrigued, they want them to be better athletes, and they just say, okay, I want to come in and I want to squat 200 pounds. Like, well, you need to know how to learn properly, or learn how to move properly first. So it's all about breaking it down. And a lot of the things seem tedious to the kids, but in the end, it's very, very important that they know how to move first. And it's just like, and one thing that Joe preaches is you can have a super strong kid, but if they can't move on their field of play, none of it's going to be applicable. They're just going to get ran around whenever they're playing their sport. And that's one of the things that the kids really buy into, is whenever you explain that aspect of why they need to learn how to move well, they buy into it immediately. So, and keeping, the training basic, we squat, we'll press, we'll introduce Olympic lifting a little bit whenever they're ready, just because I anticipate them having to do that if they move on to the next level, just so they have, kind of a background of knowing what the movement is. And just working on their core, working on single leg stuff, working on single arm stuff. All of that, incorporated into one program is just making them overall a better athlete. And I think that the more basic, the better.
Yeah, we find that here at William Jewell College too, at the collegiate level. You don't have to be super fancy. Getting the kids to buy into the basics is important because they want to do all the cool stuff. And the same way there, that you got to really, it's tedious, but it is important to explain to them why it's important. I think is a really important thing you mentioned there. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just like with Olympic lifting, a lot of the kids want to come in and learn how to clean, learn how to snatch, like immediately. It's like, well, for me as a coach, like I don't live and die by the Olympic lifts. Like, yes, triple extension is very, very important, but there's a lot of other ways to hit that, whether it be with a med ball, whether it be pushing a sled, whether it be jumping. There's a lot of other ways to hit that are a lot more basic and a lot more easy to teach than an Olympic lift, especially with the kids that don't even know how to move quite yet. There's a lot of other ways to implement that than just throwing them under a bar and tell them to clean it or snatch it or stuff like that.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's talk a little bit about your level system. So you talked about the variety of training age. How are you breaking them up? How are you progressing your athletes from, a fifth, sixth grade level up through their high school years?
So like I said before, all the age groups are split up into different groups. So we'll have fifth and sixth graders in a group, junior high kids in a group. There's actually a younger high school group, freshmen, sophomores, and then an older high school group, juniors and seniors, and then a college group. And sometimes the older high schoolers and the college kids kind of intermix because they're kind of on the same level of understanding the exercises and what I expect out of them. But no matter what age the athlete's at, I've never seen them work out or train before. So I always do an evaluation before they come in. Can they squat? Do they know how to properly hinge at the hip? Can they lunge? Can they jump properly? Can they run properly? Can they cut properly? I'll do these evaluations before they come in to kind of know where I need to set them in the program. The younger kids, like the fifth and sixth graders, it's all movement based. Like we need to get these kids to be able to know how to run properly first. They need to know how to hinge at the hip. They need to know how to do a single leg exercise. They know how to fire their core. It's completely basic. And once they, understand those things, they'll progress on to kind of the normal lifts. Because that's the junior high kids and the high school kids do the same program. It's just adjusted a little bit more, like percentage-wise, based on how progressed they really are. But once they get the motions down to where I think they're efficient enough to be safe, they all do the same program, after they get done with that elementary school age.
Perfect. I mean, I don't think they have to use a whole lot of variety. If you can progress them in different ways than different exercises. So, all right, so let's talk about your vision for the program in the next 5 years. You guys got things rolling there, but what's next? What are you guys looking to do next?
What we're kind of looking to do next is, just kind of expand where we're at now. Like there's a good number of kids that are training there right now, but it's kind of how to expand it to where maybe we can get a little bit more Des Moines kids, maybe a little more Waukee kids, and make it, welcome to a lot more kids around the area. Because right now it's a lot of local kids, and it's just kind of trying to find, those outlets to kind of get the name out there. And we've been doing a lot more social media stuff. We've been having the parents put our name out there. We've got a graphic designer named Dana Brown, and she helps us make, flyers and professional posts and like apparel, and just getting that stuff out there to get the name out there and have, people wonder what it's all about and having them just come check it out. And once they kind of check it out, they start to ask more questions. They're like, oh, well, maybe this will be cool for our kids, to kind of give them a head start on what the whole training process looks like. I know one thing that we'd really like to do with the facility is do a powerlifting meet there, because the way it's set up, there's kind of a mezzanine area that's lofted up above where you can see the turf and all the racks and everything. And it would just be really cool to host an event like that for a lot of area schools, and even in the bigger city of Des Moines. Just get some of those kids to come in and compete, and get the parents to kind of see what the facility is and kind of get the name out there that way. So just, I'd say one of the biggest visions is just how to grow the audience, that we help.
How about you as a coach? What are you looking forward to learning about here the next year or two? I mean, what road are you going down as a coach, professional development wise?
Yeah, as a coach, I just like to keep, learning and asking questions from, some of my superiors and some of the coaches that I learned from the beginning. Is how can I make, the time that the kids are there the most efficient as possible? Like, am I doing the right things? It's always good to be asked, like, why you're doing things. And I ask myself that a lot. So it's nice just to get some reassurance and ask other coaches kind of what they're doing. So I know that, I'm not taking the kids for granted, like their time. I just want to make sure that I'm doing all I can to make them the best possible without putting them in any danger of, being injured or anything like that. I just want to make sure that I'm doing what I can to make the kids better.
What are some of your favorite professional development resources? Books, articles, podcasts, whatever it might be.
So some of my favorite books, a lot of them are self-help books, like, The Last Lecture, The Energy Bus, The Fred Factor, like books that I know you're familiar with them. Like, those books for me help put a lot of the big picture things into perspective. And it was kind of nice to kind of reflect and think about, like, why I'm really training and investing in young athletes. And then, professional development wise, just networking with other coaches that I've built relationships with over time. Being in like a Facebook group, like a college strength coach Facebook group, I still, like to read articles from some of those coaches, find out what they're doing, and kind of find out what works and what doesn't work, and, just networking that way.
All right, Coach, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing a lot of your thoughts and your experience there at Forever Strong. Let's wrap it up. 4 quick questions and a finisher. Sound good?
Perfect.
All right. What's your favorite caffeine source?
I really don't drink a whole lot of caffeine, but when I do, a lot of the time I just drink straight black coffee. It's simple. I don't have to guess on measurements of like sugar and creamer and all that stuff, because a lot of the time I'll screw it up. So I'll just drink straight black coffee if I have a caffeine source.
Yeah, I've never seen you drink a Monster ever. I've never seen that, so that's good.
Yeah, there was a lot of influence at Northwest to kind of get on that kick, but I tried to resist that.
All right, favorite office snack.
Favorite office snack? I know Costco sells these boxes of peanut butter filled pretzels, and those are really nice to snack on. They'll make your mouth dry, or just have some water nearby, and they're perfect.
Yeah, those are money. I agree with that. All right, you got 15 minutes to train. What are you doing?
You know, a lot of strength coaches would probably say, they'd squat and stuff like that. But I'm going to be real honest. If I got 15 minutes, I'm probably going to bench press. Yeah, I'm going to hit bench, and I'm going to hit some bis and tries. Push some weight and, get a good pump.
What was the bench press workout you did with Coach Volstead? Wasn't it like 15 sets of 8 or something like that?
Yeah, when him and I would train together, we would have a stupid amount of volume. Like we would do a lot of sets, at least 10, and then we would hit at least 6 reps. And then we would always have a finisher to where we'd have, a certain amount of weight on the bar, and you had to get, 50 reps with that, no matter how many sets it took. So it hurt a lot, but, you definitely felt pretty wasted afterwards.
You got big. There's no doubt about that. All right, last one. Small school coach is killing it. Even in your setting, if you know another private sector coach or another coach in a collegiate setting.
So one coach that I know that's really killing it with the little resources that he has is his name's Aaron Siegman. He's out in South Dakota at Black Hill State University. I think he does a really great job of implementing programs with his athletes, and he's got a really good sense of how to motivate each athlete because, you're coaching in a group setting, but each individual athlete is kind of, motivated differently, and figuring that out is huge. And another guy that's kind of in a private sector that is doing a really good job is Adam Long at Liberty Hospital, a medical center. I think he does really great work with what he's got too. And even you and Preston at William Jewell and Preston at his high school, and how you guys have time to invest in your athletes and even put on this podcast is huge. And I think this podcast is a really, really great tool and really nice to listen to some other coaches speak.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you taking your time to come on here. So we'll link up all your contact info in the show notes. And coaches, I encourage you to reach out to Coach Steiner. He's the best guy. There's not going to meet a better guy in this industry. So, Coach, thanks for coming on. Take care. Keep killing it up there, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate you having me on the show.